Amid the Great Resignation, employees are demanding more from their employers. They've used the last 18+ months to reevaluate their priorities. They're hungry for new skills to bolster growing careers, are demanding flexibility over when and where they work, and are looking for employers to lead by example in supporting work-life balance. To put it simply, many are looking for employers that will support their overall well-being. 87% of people believe their company should be doing more to listen to the needs of their workforce, and 85% of people are not satisfied with their employer's support. The demands of the workforce are clear. Organizations must respond to the changing priorities of their workforce by focusing on developing programs and initiatives that proactively address the evolving needs of their employees. HR leaders have been at the center of the organizational shift during the pandemic. They've worked tirelessly to evolve organizations, develop new policies, and institute new technologies. I'm joined by Diane Psaras with VITAS Healthcare and Jason LaRue with KPMG to talk more about how they're responding to this moment. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The pandemic has caused many of us to reprioritize what matters to us, like work-life balance and flexibility. How are you responding to these shifting priorities? How have you altered how you support your workforce?
Work-life balance has always been incredibly important. Fortunately, the majority of our workforce, being healthcare professionals, have a lot of flexibility in their work, certainly dictated by our patient needs. But what we've tried to do is invest in things that really matter to our employees. So over the last couple of years, we've purposefully put aside investments, whereas we've given them more PTO each year. The first year, we gave 80 hours additional PTO in addition to their accrual. And we've also worked really hard to make sure that we're lowering some of their costs, i.e. some of their cost of benefits, and really trying to make sure that we're maintaining their current state of mind.
That's great. Jason, do you have anything to add?
We've experienced the trend of our employees having to prioritize a bunch of different aspects of their life, including work and family and the other things that are important to them. And so we've begun to make investments across those different dimensions to really help support them across each. So from a work perspective, we've really gotten back to how do we help them learn within the roles that they're in? How do we give them the coaching that they need in order to be able to succeed? And how do we help make their work really have the right levels of purpose so that they can feel like what they're doing matters? So from a home perspective and with their family, similarly, we've been investing in benefits and actually just made some announcements around new programs where we've introduced a 3-week caregiver leave for all of our professionals, expanded parental leave, and we're reducing the cost of healthcare premiums by 10% without changing the cost of any of our benefits. Collectively, this all falls under the category of how we're helping to care for our folks across their dimensions of total well-being. So we're really excited about these investments, and we think our employees will be as well.
None of us are immune to the effects of the pandemic, in particular burnout. Employees report that they look to leadership to set an example, of course, for work-life and balance. How are you working with your leadership to model this? Jason, I'll start with you on this one.
One of the things we've done throughout the course of the pandemic is to listen to our folks. We've been using pulse surveys on a regular basis to take input about how they're adapting to the changing work conditions and how they're using our new tools that we put in place in order to be able to continue to do their work and balance it inside their broader life. And what we recognized is that people were obviously spending a lot more time in front of their computers, either for work or for other aspects of their life. And we needed to, provide an appropriate amount of break for them in order to be able to step away from that. So at the beginning of 2021, our leadership team came out and did a New Year's resolution where they all committed to a certain level of energy enablers that would really help our people focus and get the right level of break over the course of the day. So this included things like shortening meeting times to different standard amounts, providing a structured heads down time over the course of every week where everyone in the entire organization avoids doing meetings, moving towards no camera Fridays, and trying to set up prep time at the beginning of everyone's day so that people felt like they had the appropriate amount of time to prepare themselves for what was going to come forward. And collectively, we really feel like this is designed to help them be able to adapt to this new environment. And as the top leaders in the organization committed to it, then the other leaders throughout also put out similar messaging and overall made our people feel like this was going to be normal as they stepped into 2021.
What would you add to that, Diane?
We recognize that leadership presence is key and we need to walk the talk. And so we too have eliminated all of our Monday morning meetings so that folks aren't compelled to prepare over the weekends. And certainly the work-life balance with respect to, work from home as needed and being able to manage and be flexible with their personal needs as well as their work needs.
The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that nearly 2 million women have dropped out of the U.S. workforce. That's something that's been a discussion point for me and a lot of conversations I've had with leaders. We're seeing sort of 1988 levels of female labor force participation, and that's something that we need to fix. Has this been something that you've been thinking about as well? Diane, I'll start with you.
Sure. Well, the interesting thing in healthcare, the majority relative to our demographics are female. And so the good news is we haven't seen a lot of that just yet, but in fact, we're making certain that we too are listening to really have the pulse of our organization. And we operationalize that feedback so that we can understand what's most important to them.
As we rolled out our new benefits, one of the things we were really focused on was the parental leave that I mentioned. And probably the primary feature is that we moved to 12 weeks of gender neutral parental leave. And so obviously that's an expansion for the women in our workforce, but it's also supporting the general point that you're making that we need parents on a broad basis to be able to spend time bonding with their children and not put all that burden specifically on new mothers. And so that was a big feature in the design that we were headed towards. Similarly, with our caregiver leave, we wanted to make it so that all of our people had the ability to care for their loved ones as they were moving through difficult situations.
It sounds like both of you are using technology in a really helpful way to be able to diagnose and then treat whatever problems are required, and then also augment your workforce with other supportive tools. So that's great to see that technology in play. Final question. Where do you think the global workforce will be in a year from now?
There's a couple of things that we've begun to focus on. The first is, especially for an organization like ours, we're headed into some sort of hybrid work model. Our profession often involves people getting on planes or going out to client sites on a regular basis. And we know that'll still be part of what the work is. But we're adopting a policy, we're entitling Flex with Purpose, and it's really designed to help our people make decisions about where they need to be over the course of their regular work week, and recognizing that there's going to be times when they need to be with clients, there's going to be times when they want to be or need to be in the office, but beyond that, we're going to lean in, maybe even more than is comfortable for us, and let them make choices around what's right for them in terms of how they shape their work going forward. We're also beginning to look at how do we learn in the new model, right? So ours is a culture that's very heavily leaned into apprenticeship. And as we've moved into this all virtual environment, it's had some significant disruptions that we've had to consider as we move forward. So we're really thinking about how do we remodel apprenticeship inside of a hybrid and virtual environment? How do we help people to learn and grow and build the skills they need to succeed? And then the last trend that we're tracking really closely is the one around mental health. It's clear that not only the changes in work, but just in general, the disruption that people have been facing coming out of the pandemic is having a significant burden on all of us. And so we're really thinking about, one, how do we look at the way that jobs are constructed and the way work gets done to minimize the amount of stress that we're placing on individuals? We're really focusing on how we can support people who may be navigating through a mental health challenge. How do we have the right tools in place? How do we identify individuals who need support? How do we navigate them through to the right situations, whether it be telebehavioral health or text-based therapy or anything that they need in order to support them? So, those are three really big trends: how we manage through hybrid, how we really support learning in the new environment, and how we support individuals with their mental health that we think are going to be a big part of the workforce conversation going forward.
Wow, all of that is excellent. Diane, anything else that you'd like to add to that?
We've had a focus on three areas as well. Number one, culture. Continuing to evolve a very rich culture that we've had for over 42 years, but with deliberate measures. We've implemented something we call our VITAS employee promise, which is really our commitment to our employees to be present, to provide possibilities for them to continue to learn and grow, to be people first in all of our decisions. And we also have implemented something called the VITAS difference, which really helps folks to connect the dots as to how their work really connects to the people, connects to our patients, and makes an impact each and every day. Further, we've spent a lot of time, despite the pandemic, in building our leadership skills and in fact, really introducing programs across the board, whereas our leaders are getting, new to them skills and capabilities and learnings that they can apply day in and day out to continue to really improve our employee experience. And last, but certainly not least, we've been working really hard to build our bench because in order for a leader to grow, they need to have their bench strength and certainly be able to build our pipeline along the way.
There was something that Jason said that I want to acknowledge. The idea that you're leaning in despite feeling discomfort. Obviously, we can say that the pandemic made us uncomfortable, to say the least. But anytime we go through change, we are all uncomfortable, but that leads to transformation. And I think that the future of work, if we're intentional about it, can be more positive than it was before this whole thing started. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So as you heard, organizations and HR leaders are up to the task. They too have had time to reflect and reconsider what a supportive workplace looks like today and in the future. Next week on AI at Work, the pandemic dramatically accelerated digital transformation and the future of work. What will work look like as our relationship to machines evolves? And how can we make sure that it empowers the workforce?
More and more every year, we're relying on technology to solve our problems in and out of the workplace.
We're using AI technology every day. We're using it when we drive, when we cook, when we listen to music. So AI has really just become a natural part of how we engage.
Thanks for joining us today. I'll see you next time.